Hey everyone, it's Bethany here, and I wanted to show you guys how to do some really cool paper flower crafts. Now, the great thing about a paper flower is it doesn't wilt. Actually, that's one of the problems I have at home is sometimes I have trouble keeping my flowers alive, especially when things get really, really busy. I do great with outdoor plants, indoor ones, not so much. But we're going to be making some paper ones, so they'll look good without any water for a long, long time. So we're going to be doing two different kinds. I have a really easy hyacinth flower. You can do it with all kinds of different colors. Hyacinths come in a lot of different colors. Pink kind of looks a little bit like fireweed, but hyacinths are usually known for being blues and purples, so you can do some blues and purples too if you want, or yellow, which is really cheerful. The other is this 5 points flower, and we're actually going to be making 5 different petals and putting them together. And it's a really fun one. At first, it looks a little bit complicated, but once you get down the pattern, it's fairly easy to do because you just repeat it. And so you can make a lot of these really, really fast once you get the pattern down. So it's a fun one and it's really pretty, and you can make it out of a lot of different things. I used a magazine for this one, so it has the bright colors and then the wording in it. All right, so let's get started with what we need for these flowers. First off, what you're going to need is you're going to need some paper. You can use, for the hyacinth flower, I would recommend using some construction paper, maybe some pieces of magazine for this one. You can also use just kind of construction paper with it, that works good too. You're also going to want a ruler so that you can make sure that you have the right size of paper. Some scissors to cut out your paper with, either tape or some type of glue. Glue sticks are usually have a little bit more trouble sticking, so you might need a little bit more oomph, maybe a little bit of tape if you're using a glue stick. But if you're using something like tacky glue or Elmer's glue, they're usually strong enough that they can hold just fine without any additional support. Next off, you're going to want to make sure not only do you have your scissors, but you also have something round that you can roll with. I usually use a pencil because I can also use it to draw lines for when I'm cutting out my paper. So pencils, some sort of glue or tape, scissors, paper, and a ruler. And so let's get started on learning how to do these different flowers. All right, so first off, we're going to do some beautiful hyacinth flowers. So you can do these um, beautiful flowers a couple different ways. There's really small petals, there's really large petals, there are tight curls or loose curls. It's really however you want to do your flower. Sometimes the first times you're doing it, it's a little bit easier to do the bigger, looser curls because you kind of still learning it and it's a little bit faster, and so you can come up with a really nice flower really quick. But some people want to really do the small ones, so it just takes a little bit longer. And so I always recommend maybe trying for the looser ones at first if you're going to aim for anything, just because it's nice to know that you've got the right technique and that you can do it. And then you can always make more. You don't have to be perfect on your first one. All right, so let's go ahead and learn how to do this flower. The first one I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out my petals. And so the petal piece of paper should be about 8 to 9 inches long and about 2 inches wide. And then what I usually do is I will fold at about 3/8 of an inch. And I'm kind of eyeballing it this time, but you want to make sure you fold it. And if you do kind of tear it a little bit, sometimes with especially with construction paper, that happens. We've got our good friend here, Mr. Tape. So Mr. Tape is there to help us anytime we make a tiny mistake. He will tape it up for us and fix it. Because you want this piece, this little short piece here, you don't want to cut it. You want it to be nice. And kind of long, and it'll help you wrap your flower petals. So the whole point of this is to make really cool, easy to do petals. They're not really hard to put on. They're super easy, super quick. So you want this nice. If for some reason you tear it Or if it's just really hard to work with the narrow band, you can make it a little bit longer. That's fine too. So you can go and be like, this is just a little bit hard to work with. I want to make one that's just a little bit thicker. That's okay. You can do that. No flower is the same. Everyone is different. Even flowers on the same plant can look very different. So feel free to just work it and make it and enjoy creating. It's not about being perfect the first time because even flowers in nature are not perfect. They all have their little unique differences, and that's what makes them beautiful. So what we've got here is I'm just going to use a pencil and I'm going to roll it. Um, and this is a really good way to kind of get the start of your curl. It's really hard to curl paper, surprisingly. Um, Especially sometimes construction paper can be a little bit of a pain. So if you have like a pencil, you can kind of roll it around because pencils are usually made with a wooden handle. They actually hold onto the paper a little bit better than a lot of other things. And you can get a fairly good curl. And then so I just kind of roll it, and that gets me a nice curled edge. So I can see on the inside, right on the outside here, and then all the way over this side. So that kind of gives me a nice one. And then I can just make sure I've got my fold over here. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and roll it just a tad bit tighter. Now, if you have something narrower, like maybe a really thin paintbrush, you might be able to use that to kind of roll it. Sometimes they have like plastic handles though, so it's really hard to just start with the paintbrush. But it's all about using what you have. So I can get a nice tighter curl with it. I'm gonna take my paintbrush out now. And then what I actually like to do is I like to cut it at this point. Now I don't want to cut past this line. So here's that line that I folded right here. You can see my little line. I don't want to cut past that. I want to cut right to that. Maybe right in front of that, but I don't want to cut past it because I'm going to use this part right here to glue all my petals on, and then each of the parts up here is going to be a petal. So I'm just going to cut them out, and you want to cut them between, this is about a ½ inch, so somewhere between like a ½ inch and maybe like a ½ inch. So anywhere in there is good. All right, so I've gone ahead and cut all of them out. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to make the stem. Now the stem is really, really fun. Here's how you do it. I'm going to get a green piece of paper, and I have one, I've gone ahead and cut this one lengthwise. So normally my paper would be here all the way back, but this time I've gone ahead and I've cut my paper so it's about 3 to 4 inches wide. This one is 3 inches, I believe, but you can do a 4-inch wide one too if you want. Um, and then I'm going to take my pencil, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this with my pencil. And I want the pencil angled. I don't know if you guys can really see, but my pencil is angled so that it'll make it a really long stem. Do be careful that your pencil doesn't get lost in this though. So you might want to like part way through kind of tug your pencil a little bit to one side. Because you're going to have to pull the pencil out eventually, and you don't want him stuck in there forever. I mean, unless you never liked the pencil, and then I guess, he's serving a good cause. He's turning into a flower. All right, and so about the time I've made a nice triangle over here, I'm going to want to start adding some glue. And I just like to have a really hands-on approach um, to my projects. So I finger paint my glue on. I know, it's terribly messy. Now, normally when I do this, I will put it on a piece of paper or like on a plate or scrap piece of paper or something that I don't mind just tossing or washing off in the dishwasher really quick. I'm doing it on the table this time because, well, one, I can wash it off the table, but two, it's really easy for you guys to see it. So you can see my little glob of glue. And so what I usually do is I just dip my finger in and finger paint it on. Now you can use other techniques for this. You could even use a glue stick. The glue sticks we have here are not like very sticky. And I like the little extra strength that Elmer's glue and tacky glue tend to have. So, or really any office white glue tends to have. Um, so that's why I tend to use these ones. And I don't mind my fingers being a little bit sticky from a mess. I can always wash them off. And then I'm just going to finish rolling. Now, this last part, sometimes the very corner tends to hold up just a little bit. So I might add just a little extra glue, a little extra oomph to that one. Or if I wanted, I could tape it down, but I'm just going to add a little extra glue. And that's usually just enough to hold it down. And then you can see I have my pencil still sticking out the top. I was careful not to lose him, so I can save my little pencil from my stem. So there is my stem. It's actually a very long stem. If I wanted one that was super long, I could actually attach multiple stems together. It's a little bit too big for you guys to see though, so I'm just going to stick with this one because he's nice and short. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put my flower petals on here. So I have these beautiful blue flower petals I just finished making. I want to put them on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide which part of the stem I like looking at and which one I don't like as much. And I don't like this one as much because you can kind of see this little corner and the rows are really tight here. And I think this is really pretty because it's all long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this corner using my flower petals. So this is really good technique if you like made a mistake on your stem. You could kind of hide it a little bit. As long as it's on one end. If it's in the middle, that's what we have leaves for. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this really long piece and I'm going to wrap it around here. So I'm going to take a little bit of glue and I'm going to put it on the back here of my petals. And I'm going to stick it to my stem. I'm going to stick it near the very top of my stem. So here's my stem, Mr. Stem, and I'm going to stick it with glue right there. You guys see that? Right there. Now, sometimes people think this doesn't stick enough. Maybe it's just not sticky enough. Don't worry, we have a solution. It's called Mr. Tape over here. So I can take off a little piece of tape. See this little tape? And I can stick him on there with some tape. And you're going to wrap this flower petal around. So it doesn't matter if you can't quite, if it's kind of sticking out a little bit, it'll hide with the tape. So just keep dipping your finger in, take some glue, run it down, and then start wrapping. Hold them in there. And then I can let that dry. So you can see he's all glued down. He looks beautiful. Just a nice, beautiful blue hyacinth flower. But he's looking a little bit plain on this stem here. I mean, we worked really hard on this stem, but it doesn't have that extra flair. So what I get that flair from is having some leaves. So here's one I have that has some leaves on it. You can see these beautiful long leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some leaves and that'll give them a nice little pop. So what I usually do is I have about a 3-inch piece of paper. So it's about 3 inches by, oh, I don't know, how long did we make this one? I thought it might be a nice leaf length. About 5 inches, I guess. I do a lot of things just by kind of like, oh, I think that's about the right length. So sometimes I don't remember exactly what I was doing it by. So this is about 5 inches. And I'm going to make this nice little grass pattern. So if you guys do a lot of crafts and stuff, you've probably made grass, fake grass out of construction paper. But it's just this little triangles that you cut out. All right, so now I've got it, and I can make these a little bit deeper. I can do that same thing I did before where it's a 3/8 of an inch, but because you're wrapping these really tight, sometimes mine tear a little bit, so I'm just giving myself a little extra space down here, and this will blend in with the stem, so it's okay. And if I wanted to, I could even do a second row of leaves. I don't have to just do one. I could do more than one. So I'm just going to call that good for now. Dip my finger in some glue. And I'm going to spread the glue on here. Again, making sure I get that glue, nice amounts of it, near the beginning and especially near the end of it because you're going to need that extra glue power. And then hyacinth, you can do the leaves just like you did the flowers up here. Again, sometimes the best laid plans of mice and men, and the glue is just not strong enough. Guess what? We have a visit from Mr. Tape. Mr. Tape can hold amazing things, so we just put that little tape there. And here we go, back over, back around. And then I'm going to put my little extra globby of glue right here, and really kind of hold him down and let him get him stuck on there. And then you're done. So that's pretty cool. A lot of fun. So you can see it looks much dressier now that he has this little happy leaves on there. So that's how you do the hyacinth. We do have one more I want to show you guys because it's a lot of fun and it's really easy to make a lot of them. And that's this beautiful 5-pointer. So our 5-point star, I make them sometimes out of magazine, but you can also make it out of construction paper or regular printing paper. The only thing you need is you need a square piece of paper. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. This flower, I usually use a 4-inch leaf pattern. So I do a 4-inch square and then I fold it into like a petal and line up with the sides. So as long as my paper has even straight cuts on it, I can do this. And I have a lot of scrap paper at home, so I have a lot of like pieces of paper that are cut into 4s. Each little square paper will make one of these petals, and you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of them total. So we're going to make one of them. And so we already have this fold in the middle, which is perfect because that's our first fold. So once you've got that, we're going to take and fold a little wing for him. So we're going to take our piece of paper, and you can tell I don't have a perfect square, but I have a really close to perfect square. So we'll try and fold it right. So if you make little mistakes, it's okay. And now we're going to do the same thing with this corner. We're going to take this little point that's over here, and we're going to fold him and put him over here. So, fold him over and cinch it down. And we just kind of rub that corner in. So now we have 2 really good folds. We're doing really good. In fact, we're almost there, guys. We're doing great. So next what I want to do is I'm going to pop this out. And I always try and hold my 2 fingers, my finger and my thumb, I hold it right here so that this doesn't move. I hold it nice and tight. And then I can point this side towards myself, and I'm going to line up this little point right here with this one. So you see that right there? With this one. Here we go. See how well I do it. I'm doing it backwards, so I don't really get to see it as well. So hopefully you guys see it pretty good. So if I'm a little bit off, I can kind of shove it over a little bit, but lining up that point right here makes a nice line. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Let's do it again. Okay? So here's that point right there. And we're going to line it up with our middle line that we've got, our middle fold. See how he's lined up good? And we're going to push him down so that that line right here goes all the way up to here. See how it goes? Whoop. Perfect, guys. Perfect. So, facing ourselves once more, we have this side. So now you can see it's kind of like there's a little square, and on the little square are these little wings almost. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold his little wingy down a little bit. So you're going to make it so he looks more like a regular triangle. Like he wishes he was a square, but he's not quite a square. That's okay. So put that down there. See, now it's got a nice even line from this corner all the way to the tippy top to this corner. And same thing on this side, tippy top to this corner, nice even line. Perfect, guys. You are more than halfway done. You're almost there. Okay, so now we're going to fold this part in half. And it should already have a crease there, so it should fold pretty easy, guys. So you just kind of fold him there, and you can see that crease, and it kind of helps you line it up. And it should fold right onto the other side. And you're going to do the same thing with this one. You're going to fold it right along that crease. Sometimes your creases get a little bit off as you fold, but they should have a nice crease there. and you just fold that crease down right there. Whoa, it's almost like you have another square again. Look at that. Look at your teeny little square. Isn't he adorable? Cute square. All right, so now we're going to fold this over, and I'm going to use a little bit of glue. So I'm taking my glue spot again, and I'm going to rub a little bit of glue on here. I probably put on a little too much glue, but I like this sticking really good, so I'm going to put that extra glue on there. I don't mind. Um, and then I'm going to press this on down, and voila! Now the benefit with the magazines is the magazines they kind of have that really pretty glossy page, and also I usually have a lot of colorful magazines laying around, so I can get all kinds of pretty colors. So the little middle parts that you were folding, those make this little inside flower part, and then the big petals made of the outside, our big square. So I've made one petal. So you can see how many petals do I need, guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have to make 5 more of these. Um, I may not make all 5 of them for this video, but I will show you how you attach it on there. So if you want to glue one on, we'll go ahead and cut to that, and I'll show you how to glue them on. All right, guys. So once you're ready to start gluing, if you have all your 5 petals, you're going to want to start gluing them together. So what I usually do is I actually kind of glue them as I go along because I just kind of want to see my flower build up. So I'll glue them on, and it's not that hard to do. So you just take your glue, rub it along the edge here. So I have this nice, you take your glue and you rub it along this edge here. And you don't need a terrible amount of glue, just a little bit of glue is fine. So you see I have my nice little white line there of glue, and I'm just going to stick him, boop, right there, right onto the next petal. And as you build them, you're just doing one little glue dot line each time until you get to the 5th one. This is the one that's a little bit different, a little bit tricky, guys, but I'm confident you can do this. So take your little glue, and you're going to rub one side. Okay, this is our 5th petal. Rubbing on one side. And then here's the tricky part. We're going to flip it over and rub it on the other side. That's it, guys. Super easy. Super easy. You can do this. I know you can. All right, so now that I have it on both sides, I'm going to try and not glue it to my table. That wouldn't be very helpful. I'm just going to stick it in so you guys can see. He'll turn it a little bit so maybe you guys can kind of see it as it goes in. But you can see, here it is. Just stick it right in there. Right in there. And I'm going to kind of push on the one side. If I push down, so you can see I'm pushing down here, it kind of makes the sides of my flower petal pucker out a little bit and touch these other adjacent petals. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to hold it for probably 10 to 20 seconds. And while I do that, the glue will kind of dry on there and it'll hold it really, really nice. And I get this really clean point to it. This other one that I did, I just used tape to hold it together, and it still made a very pretty one, but it's definitely looser in the middle. So if you kind of like the looser in the middle one, just use tape on the outside or just use glue near the bottom, and it kind of poofs out at the top. If you want a really close middle, really, really narrow, then you're going to want to put the glue all the way up and glue it to the sides, and then it'll give you that nice tight look. So either way you want to do it. And then the way that a lot of people will do this is some people will just have these around. Some people will put them on stems. So they might have like a pipe cleaner stem, or they might use a paper stem like we made for this one, or a straw will work. But what a lot of people like to do is they like to make a bunch of these and then they glue them together and they make like a ball out of them. And so what they'll do is they'll just take a little bit of glue, put it on 2 of the petals, like that, right down the middle of the petals, and then they'll just tap another flower to it. Just like, see if I can do this. See, I say it's all easy, and then I'm having trouble with it. just like this, okay? And this is a little bit more tension, so you are going to have to hold it a little bit longer. So I would do like the 100-second count. Some of you guys have done a lot of glue projects, so you know the 100-second count is when you count to 100 while you hold the Elmer's glue and wait for it to dry, or whatever office tacky glue you use. Um, but then it'll hold together, and then you just keep building onto it, and eventually it makes a ball shape, and then you can either hang the ball from the ceiling, or you can put it and just set it on the coffee table so it looks all pretty on the coffee table, and your friends will be super impressed that you made this by yourself. It looks stunning. So I would love to see it. If you guys want to make some of these, you can make this out of a lot of different materials, little different types of paper. So feel free to send your photos, message us on Facebook, send us your photos. We would love to see them. We would love to see what you guys have been making. Um, and we've got the beautiful hyacinth flowers you guys can make. We've got these awesome 5-point flowers. So do send us your pictures, send us your videos, and have a lot of fun. And remember, don't worry about watering these. They'll look good for a long, long time to come. Have fun, guys. Take care.